Alright guys, so in this video I want to talk about a new feature added to the Insta360 GO. It's called FPV Stabilization. So recently they've added the 5-minute FPV mode, and now they've added a new mode that does a new kind of stabilization called FPV Stabilization. So in my previous videos with the Insta360 GO, you saw this on the Diatone Tina Whoop, and basically it was using it's called flow state stabilization, which essentially just locks the horizon, which gives you the best stability. But when you do any kind of acro moves like flips or rolls, then it would do like this weird thing, would keep the horizon locked, and you see the drone circle around the whole frame of the video. And that was a feature of the flow state stabilization. It would just keep the horizon completely locked. Obviously you had the option of turning flow state stabilization off completely, and so then basically any kind of little drone vibrations, etc., would come through the camera, and also all the little moves and stuff, like the little if you're, for example, if you're weren't very steady on the sticks, that would also come through on the camera because there would be no stabilization at all. So FPV stabilization is kind of like in between ground. It doesn't lock the horizon, but it gives you a little bit of that flow state stabilization to keep that image nice and smooth. So this is what you're going to see in this video. It's on this drone here, which I haven't put a review on yet. It's called the G-Lang Titan 120X. I'll have a full video on this later, but if you guys are wondering, I'll put a link down in the description. It's on pre-order now, and basically if you're wondering if you should buy it or not, it's pretty good. I'll talk about that in full detail in another video, but I thought it was alright. Flew pretty good. You'll see that in the video here, that on the flight that I flew around for about 4 minutes on this guy. One thing to note is the way it's mounted on here on this particular drone. It's kind of not in line with the FPV camera. So what you're going to see is the drone in the part of the shot here, because the camera is actually over the right side of the drone. So you see part of this prop over here on the right, and the front of the nose of the drone. So I think I'm not sure if they designed this mount this way so that you could deliberately get this sort of perspective of the drone and the shot. If that's what you're looking for, you could do that, or you can create a different mount where you're angling it up so it's not actually in the drone is not actually in the field of view of the camera. You could do that as well, or you could do other things like put the camera in the back here and get like a third-person view. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with this camera because it's so light and small. Couple things to note is you do have to load you have to load the newest firmware onto the camera, which you can do via the app. So you update the app and then it'll update the camera, and then you have to get the latest version of the Studio app on your desktop. I think it's 1.34.10, I believe. Yeah, well, I'll put down here in the description the link to download that, and that will give you that new feature. So when you do the export, you're going to export it in actually in 9:16 aspect ratio, because the camera is horizontal here, and that's actually not the native orientation of the camera. It should be vertical. And so in order to get a proper export, you have to export it in 9:16 with the FPV stabilization turned on. And then of course the video is going to be sideways. You're going to have to rotate it in your video editor, which is what I did. And the reason I'm actually doing all this in the Studio app is you can actually export it at a higher bit rate. So I'm actually exporting this at like 60 megabits, I believe. And if you do the export in the phone, the maximum you can get is 40 megabits. So obviously you want more bit rate to get more data, so that when you actually edited everything and then render the video and then upload it to YouTube, you actually have the most video quality. Which is why I think if you looked at my previous videos on I think the very first one I exported from the phone, that one was not such great quality, and then I think subsequent videos after that I exported from the app and exported it at a high bit rate, so you get higher quality video. Even though it is still 1080p, you're getting the maximum bit rate you can possible out of this camera. Anyway, so if you want to see what regular flow state stabilization looks like, I'll link that previous video down in the description, and then you'll see what FPV stabilization looks like in this video. Yeah, they keep adding more and more features to this camera. It's I think it's great, and they are definitely listening to the feedback from the FPV community. So if you guys can suggest any other improvements for this camera, leave comments down below, let me know, and I'll pass those on to those guys at Insta360. Maybe we'll see some new features in a future update. And you guys, here's some flight footage, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.